Hey, baby. Coming at you live. Church of Jill. I shouldn't have said that. I'm at Variate Podcast. Welcome. We're here. Sean and Cass back at it again. Patreon.com/Church of Chill. We're doing our thing.
Variape.tv.
You want to just shout out websites the whole time? ebombsworld.com.
Oh my God.
That's the first website that comes into my head when I think about a website.
It might be your most visited website ever, do you think?
Whoa. You might be right. You might be right about that.
How many years has it been since you've looked at eBombs World? Does it even exist anymore?
Yeah, no, it still exists. I don't go on there, but that used to be like my go-to. That used to be like my homepage when I opened up my browser.
And it was like fails and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a collection of cringy fails, and I'm like kind of forgetting
fails just
bloopers.
feels reductive. Yeah, like
Twisted Joker stuff.
Twisted. Yeah.
Huh.
Definitely. Yeah, I got addicted to the internet like right when it came out. I got addicted because where I was living down in Florida, we got like a cable modem. It was like they were like testing this product in like 1998, high-speed internet.
And it goes.
That's what it used to do. Them's was the old days. I'm talking about no sound whatsoever. You're just on the internet. You don't even have to click anything, whatever. I got on there, and then there wasn't much to do on the internet back then. Just like chat, eBombs World.
It's funny because I feel
Style Project.
I feel like I used to do a lot more on the internet, and everything's reduced to very simple places where you go get your media and news and content. Like I used to have all these different browsers like eBombs. I mean, I don't know if that was or like I'd read from New York Mag or I'd read this and now I'm just like everything has become like social media has allowed it to be like a curated space. You don't even have to go into those sites. I don't know. I don't think that's for the better necessarily.
No, it definitely had more of a Wild West feel back in the day. Mm-hmm. You know, now it has like a Disney Wild West feeling. Mm-hmm. Everything's in its right place and everyone's playing the character or whatever. But back in the day, you know, you'd stumble across something and be like, what the heck is this? Is this legal? Is this allowed?
It's kind of I don't know if maybe we're just out of touch and there is a Wild West internet that we just, you know, like the dark web or whatever it is, and we're just like not savvy enough to navigate it.
Yeah.
But it does feel like because Google owns YouTube and the search browser and there's really no big competitors that people use, it's like we're very much the opposite of the Wild West. We're like, think about this. If you search this, this is what you'll find. And everyone's getting shown the same stuff with the same searches. And
yeah. What the heck?
I don't like it.
No, because there's a homogenization going on a little bit. You know, we focus a lot on like the polarities, like, oh my God, look how extreme this faction is, look extreme that. But most people have been like homogenized into a thing. I talk about it all the time. Like when I was coming up, like, and this wasn't a long time ago. This is in the 90s, late 80s when I was going to school. There was like, you know, people had different tastes and things, and like really like just a whole different approaches to life based on those tastes. And like, you know, it's like there's goths, there's punks, there's jocks, there was like all these like just different factions that I feel like over time is like kind of just becoming
like top 40. Like you're just someone who likes top 40.
Yeah.
And that can include punk music, it can include goth music, R&B, rap, hip hop, pop. Did I name every genre? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. You named one genre, top 40.
I'll tell you, top 40.
It's everything. Yeah. But, you know, homogenization, maybe it's not a bad thing. I don't know. I think that's...
Well, it becomes a bad thing when we're being monopolized and whoever's doing it has like a certain viewpoint that if you stray from that viewpoint, your perspective isn't represented, you know? Like I look at certain news sites and I'm like, oh, there's a whole population of people whose perspective isn't represented here.
Yeah.
And it's very concerning. So.
Yeah, very, very
not
touchy.
to start on
the touchy subjects.
Well, not to start on the darkness of our life, dark days. We feel like we're in an upside down world, at least to me. I don't know. I just remember being a kid and being like, why can't we all get along? And I still have that like question. I'm like, why can't we figure out how to get along and love each other and represent each other and not be scared of each other and not be scared of other people wanting to live and let live.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like it's like humanity got like infected at some point with a disease that makes you think a certain way, and it's very much based on hoarding resources and becoming wealthy and greed, and like it's almost like we teach that as like a high value. You know, look out for yourself, do what you got to do. Doesn't matter how it affects other people. Do what you got to do to get ahead in this life, and it's just a terrible mindset. And like we've become so disconnected from spirit because of it, and the land, and each other, really.
You mean being in a consumption loop?
Yeah.
A consumption loop hellscape of I don't know how to get out of it except just like be aware of what's going on and try to be a little more mindful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I just feel like we're still being affected by like Reaganomics and this idea that we're deregulating these different industries and different the things that were used to be a little more separate. This company was in charge of this company was in charge of this, instead of like thinking you have all, like America used to be about choices. Now it's just the illusion of choices.
Yeah.
It used to be like, oh, you could get this product, or you could trust this brand, or you could trust this brand, or you could have different brand loyalties, but now it's just like, oh, you think you're trying to be more green by liking, what is it, Tom's?
Yeah.
Or Burt's Bees or something, and you're like, oh, well, Burt's Bees is just owned by Procter and Gamble now. I actually don't know who they're owned by. I'm just talking shit, but probably like, or Johnson and Johnson, who like poisoned everyone with baby powder or whatever it is, you know?
I think people are being poisoned by deodorants. You know, there's like a huge rise in male breast cancer. You know, obviously female breast cancer is out of control, but then there's like a big rise in male breast cancer. And
interesting.
A lot of people think it's because of the shit we put in our armpits. It's just literally, look where you're putting it. You're putting like these crazy chemicals that are meant to stop your body from detoxifying.
Right.
You know, like what is that doing and what's in there? I remember I used to break out, like I used to wear deodorant and I'd be like, look at my armpits. They'd be like red rash, you know? And I tried to use like the most natural or whatever. It would always do that. I'm like, I don't think
I need to stop. I don't do it every day, but I do have like a deodorant I like to use that's not antiperspirant.
I appreciate it. I've never smelled you, you know?
That's
14
funny.
years together. And
I smell you, and sometimes I smell your armpit, and I'm like, damn, you smell like literal wood chips. You're like, for not being, you're
okay.
You're a true man, but you're not like a wood chopping man. And I'm like, how is it that
I have the attire for it, but
how is it that your armpit smells like wood chips? Like I was like, I'd bottle this scent.
Oh, baby. That's how you know we like each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, like, look, if you're on deodorant, maybe there's other options. I don't know what they are, but
there's like a salt thing that you could do. There's a salt option. I don't know. It gets so crunchy. The natural alternatives get so crunchy. But we're just talking to some friends who, you know, they have a 10-year-old and who's already starting to like show signs of puberty, and it's just like, oh, puberty's happening younger and younger in kids.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, we're just poisoning ourselves. Like we are just, the hormones are pumping.
Oh my God.
Everything's getting a little discombobulated, it seems.
Everything's getting faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whether, I don't know what it is, if it's our demise or like achieving alienhood, but it seems like it's happening faster.
It's like a little bit of both. I try not to judge it for that reason, you know. Like obviously I don't want people to be confused about their bodies and stuff like that, but at the same time it's like I'm trying not to judge it because I'm like, this is maybe part of our natural evolution, and we should learn how to accept it and work with it. And
yeah. I mean, it's natural to question your body and be like, what the heck is this thing? What am I doing? Why am I stuck as Sean?
Did you ever have a moment where you're like, why do I have this appendage on my body? Or did you ever have like this thing that you're like, oh, I don't have an appendage like that on my body, so I wonder.
Oh, you're talking about my dick?
Yeah, I was trying not to say the word, but yeah.
We're far enough into this where we can say penis.
Penis.
Um, no, it's weird. I haven't been super meta about it, but it's kind of crazy probably how much that appendage controls people's outlook on life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really strange.
I think, I mean, at least for me, everything in my life, I find that I accept things very quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, whatever it is, I'm just like, and you have to like kind of shake me out of it sometimes because I just like accept new realities or a new way of being or a new mindset or whatever it is. And you're like, Cass, you don't have to
yeah.
feel like this or it doesn't have to be like this. And you can see like the bigger picture. And I'll just be like, I don't know. My mom used to say she would just like sit me in a corner and just like sit there as
Yeah.
a kid, you know?
I was like that too though.
Yeah. But you
Yeah.
question the nature of reality probably more than I do. I'm very quick to be like, oh, this is because I think what our brains do is like they try to make sense of the story, and some people's brains are a little more critical thinking of the story, and then
Yeah.
other people's brains are like, okay, this is the story. I'm like chugging along with this new story.
Yeah, like besides like my parents or especially my mom being like that, I think being interested in history from a young age kind of infused that into me, you know. You learn about some stuff and like I was fascinated with like the JFK assassination when I was like maybe like 4th, 5th, 6th grade.
Mm.
I was just like fascinated with it and like I was taking in all this information and you just like start to question things. You're like, did the government kill this guy? Did the CIA kill JFK?
What do you believe?
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
I don't know what to believe. I don't know.
My mom says all the time, she's just like, I just don't understand why we can't elect somebody who is anti-war, who is a good person and this and that. And I'm like, we could. They're just going to be killed. Like, they're going to be assassinated. Like, I don't know. All I'm saying is from as a young boy, you get horse fed some BS about this country and our role in things. And you start to read like a little bit more of the radical histories, and then like it just blows the lid off the whole illusion. And once the illusion about your country gets blown off at a young age, you can kind of start to see that in other things. And I'm not saying it's a blessing. I think most times it's a curse. Just like the over questioning of things and authority and suspicion and stuff like that. I mean, it's necessary for me, but I think it hasn't always led to the happiest times.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, sometimes just being, like, naive is you can have a little bit more of a peaceful existence.
Yeah.
You just, like,
It's a relief to get caught up in the dream, to get caught up in the illusion. It's nice. It feels good. And I do it.
Totally.
Yeah. But things are moving faster and things seem to be happening faster. And, like, I don't know about you, or the audience, or whoever's listening to this, but, like, to me, it feels like synchronicities are happening faster and faster. And like I don't want to believe like, oh, this is something very personal to me. I think it's probably happening to everyone if you're paying more attention.
Yeah, I think the more mindful, the more you slow down in a fast universe, the more you can see the synchronicities. Because a lot of times I think they're happening whether you're paying attention or not. It's just, can you slow down enough to pay attention, to recognize, to witness, to remember?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm seeing that, and that's so funny because that connects to this thing that I was thinking earlier or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like the synchronicities come like stronger when not only when I don't believe solely that synchronicities come for you if you're like in a high state of being or you're in this enlightened state. I think synchronicities come for you sometimes when you're off track completely and they're like, hello,
Yeah.
wake up, pay attention.
It's like a magnetic pull back to the oneness.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. I wonder what synchronicity was, for most of human history. Before there was so much stuff to play with, so many elements. You know what I mean? Like when we were cavemen, when we were, just figuring out civilization, like were people having synchronicities or was there just not like, it's like, oh, I found a stick. This reminds me of when I found a stick yesterday. That's crazy. I can't believe I found 2 sticks. What? Look at this animal carcass. That's wild. Can you believe that we found an animal carcass? We were just talking about that last. Like, I don't think that synchronicity was like a huge factor.
I think it was a bigger factor. I think it was like you'd wake up and you'd listen to the song of the bird and you'd be like, what does this mean? Or you'd hear a bird fighting and you'd be like, oh, there might be some like almost like premonition sort of stuff. Or
I don't think of that as synchronicity though. I think of that as like mapping the territory.
I guess you're right.
And
It's
and
different.
you setting up for when we could eventually be experiencing those things. And I've always thought of synchronicities as, you know, God's little breadcrumbs. just giving you a sweet little
Nod or wake up.
yeah.
I think it also, that's what I'm trying to say though. I think it also happens in a wake up capacity. Like if you're thinking about something you shouldn't be thinking about, sometimes something will end up being a symbol for not thinking about that thing, and you'll see that symbol again and again, and you're like, at least for me, I have symbols that tell me to remember something, and I have symbols that tell me to forget something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What's a symbol that would help you forget something? What's that even mean?
I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, like a good symbol for something to remember something is like every time I see the number 237, I think of my family. You know, that's like a significant number for thinking about my family. And every time I see that number, I'm like, oh, I love my family. I'm grateful for my family. I'm thinking about my family, sending good vibes to my family. And then, you know, sometimes you have something that you're overthinking about and you're like, you just see something, you're like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to think about that thing.
I just think back in the day we needed less reminders because it's like you didn't need a reminder of your family. You were your family. You were in it. You didn't, you know, like
yeah, you weren't so distant from your family.
Yeah. It's just like we've added a layer of like symbolism to things that like I just don't think was as necessary or as part of the human experience for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, it was tripping me out the other day. I was way too high and something happened. It had something to do with numbers, and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." I was like, "Did people used to have like what were synchronicities like before there were numbers and clocks everywhere and you know just like?"
This is what I picture. I picture a butterfly landing on the nose of a woman you love, and then you sit up later and you see your butt left a butterfly pattern, and it reminds you of her.
Damn.
That's my picture of a synchronicity from back in the day.
That's pretty good. You came up with a good one.
You just see butterflies all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we've been doing our thing. We're out here. We're creeping around, cruising. We've been partying hard.
Yeah, we try to see a show every once in a while just to keep us going to church, and we did 3 shows this week.
Yeah.
So it was especially good week.
Yeah, we've gone to 3 concerts since our last podcast. We went and saw Bob Dylan, the Capitol Theater.
Hell yeah.
We went and saw Grateful Shred, Capitol Theater. And then last night we were at Spiritualized at Webster Hall.
Everyone has talked so much. We've seen Bob Dylan twice, and I've really loved it both times. But a lot of people are like love or hate with Dylan, especially in this era of his like the Rough and Rowdy tour, and even back to 2013. People are like, I saw him in 2013 and he was horrible. Or,
Go on Reddit and type in Bob Dylan. It's mainly what'll come up is people being furious that they went and saw him and it was terrible.
I think a lot of people expect something different. They're used to, you know, the idea of like Mick Jagger. You know, you're 80 and you're just rocking like you always did.
Yeah.
And Dylan's, you know, always been, I think, true to wherever he's at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think there's a beauty in both approaches. Like, Mick Jagger's just like forever the party.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And
we're going to go out there and play faithful rendition of Brown Sugar every night.
Yeah. And then Dylan has, you know, Dylan's probably written a lot more songs.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot more eras of his career. And he's, I think, changed as an artist more. As far as like how he sings, the sound, you know, switching from acoustic to electric, trying different bands. And the Rolling Stones have been, you know, the same band for however many years. And so it's, you know, you got to honor that Dylan's true to himself and where he's at 80 years old, which is sitting down at a piano, singing new songs, but then some of the old songs that with a completely different sound. And I think I love it just as much.
To me, it's very exciting. I don't know. We saw him a couple years ago in Philly at like at the Met, like a big theater, and it was awesome. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
I was very impressed. But this was even better. Smaller theater, the Capitol Theater, just legendary venue, and it was cool. We took your dad, you
Yeah.
know, which made me nervous because I'm like, I think most people don't like seeing Bob Dylan live, you know, unless you're like a total nerd like us. Like,
Yeah, where you're looking at the set list even when you're not going to the show. You're just like, oh, he played this last
yeah,
night.
totally. That's me.
That's you. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're such a nerd.
I know.
You're like, guess what Bob Dylan played last night? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know why it interests me. It's weird. It's like, well, I mean, I think 500 years from now, he's one of the few people that'll even be mentioned from now. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it feels like, wow, we have access to this now. Like, if it's just like just a beautiful living monument to.
Well, he's a very significant channel. If artists are channeling energy, he's been a very, very powerful channel.
Yeah.
And he's written some of the most powerful, beautiful songs, the most covered songs, the most like, how did this song not exist before him songs, you know?
Yeah. Or how does this song exist?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you do this?
And then it's also just being an artist yourself. It's probably like you look to other artists to see how are they doing it? What do they do? What,
Yeah.
you know, what other artist is he honoring when he covers a song, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't surprise me.
Well, it was cool. We got there early, and because we had general admission and we didn't know what the situation was going to be, so we're like, let's just get there early. Like, if we can get a great spot, let's do it. And good Lord, we probably had the best spot in the whole place.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. We got in there after being thoroughly searched, like crazy, like TSA vibes, just worse. People just fucking yelling at you. You know, it's like you have to go through this crazy portal before you go into shows now of just like being treated like a criminal, being treated like a piece of shit. You know,
Shook down. Like,
yeah.
I had some like supplements.
You'd kratom.
Okay, I had kratom.
You can admit it.
I can admit it. I had some kratom. I had done a couple, and I was just like, I had them in my little fanny pack, and they have little leaves on the pill, but like other than that, it wasn't in because it comes in a bigger package. I just had it in a little small package, and
Yeah.
she's like, you have to bring these back to the car or throw these out. And I was like, what? And she's like, you can't identify what these are. And I'm like, they're kratom. It's legal. And she's like, I'm sorry. And I was like, what? Like, what could these even be? Like, even if these are MDMA or even if these are LSD, what do you think I'm going to do? Go in there and dose everybody? Like, what are you worried about? What is the concern?
Is it because it just felt like the security had gotten a talking to, you know, before the show?
Yeah.
Like, hey, nobody is to cross the line tonight. If you see anyone trying to sneak anything in, drugs or whatever, no one's getting out of line tonight. And, you know, send a shock down their spine before they even go in there. Make them scared before we even go in there, type of thing.
It makes me appreciate so much venues that aren't up your ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember going to Red Rocks and them being so chill. And I get the instinct to hire like a security team, then you say, like, do your fucking job. Your job is to make sure no food, drink, or weapons come in here.
Weapons. Let's just get real.
Well,
What the
that's how I
fuck are
feel
we
like it
worried
should
about?
be, especially since you can get food in there. It's like, oh, you had a cookie that got confiscated.
Yeah.
Or you had to throw it out. It's like a cookie.
Yeah, like what is this about? Why are you taking this? Or is this just about sending a message, you know?
Yeah, but when you can go into a place and they're not shaking you down, you're like, yes.
Yeah, but
That's
you but you never know when that's going to be the situation. So you always have to prepare as if you're going to be. And luckily I left all my dabs in the car, because if they were sitting there telling me to throw dabs away, I would have been like, fuck this show. I'm not even going in here.
Cass, turn around. We're leaving.
We're leaving.
We're leaving.
They tried to take my dabs.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we got there early. We got in there and like fourth row, like literally 15 to 20 feet from Bob Dylan. Like I wouldn't have even wanted to be any closer. It would have been like, it was already, I was directly in Bob Dylan's eye line. Like if he looked up, he'd be looking at me, and I'm like a tall person compared to like the people around us. So yeah, anyway, we got in there early, fucking, And then it was like we're in there at 6:30, and we knew he wasn't going to go on till 8. So like that's the one fatal flaw in a plan like what we were doing. It's just like we're gonna have to stand there for at least an hour and a half before he
Whenever I
comes
get
on.
tickets to shows, I always want a seat. But when you're like, oh, or you could stand 10 to 15 feet from Bob Dylan, I'm like, all right, fine, I'll freaking stand.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like we're strong, we can do this. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I kept telling myself, and I was strong and we could do it until like right before the show. I was like, all right, he's gonna go on in 15 minutes. Let me go to the bathroom and just get incredibly high, which I did. And man, this hasn't happened to me in a while. Like it shook me.
So when you're shook, what do you mean?
Well, like I took like the pen that I brought in there. I don't have it right here, but like I don't know how it's gonna hit. Like like you could sit there and suck on it, and then nothing come out and be like, oh damn it, like the dab didn't hit the coil or whatever. But like it did, So like I just hit it the same every time, and I took a massive hit, and like I'm blowing it out in the bathroom, and I was like, holy shit, that was a big hit. And I was like, let me just take one more, and I took another one, and like literally feel like a little dizzy leaving the bathroom from weed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's me. I smoke a lot. And I was like, I left the bathroom and I was like, whoa, okay. I was like, I just caught a really good buzz. This is gonna be great. And I was like floating on a cloud back to our spot. And I got back to the spot and like it was just like my body was just like, huh? And you start entertaining those thoughts like, did I overdo it? And like, for me, once I entertain one of those thoughts, like they start flooding in. One of them's like, we got in there, come on, I'll hold the door open for the rest of these invasive thoughts. And yeah, luckily there was like some people around us that were like sitting on the floor, so I was just like, yes, I'm just gonna sit on the floor, no big deal.
No big deal.
I'm like laying, I like get down to the floor, I like immediately open up my fanny pack. I'm just like looking for something to distract me. I'm like, I have this like little roller of like a good smelling thing. I like put that on my wrist and smelled, and that helped a little. And then you handed me a piece of gum, and I was like, whew, which is a good secret, I think, if you're feeling in the headspace of like, I took too much nicotine or a drug or something. Like put a little sugar in your mouth.
I will say I've successfully quit that gum, and I went like over a month without having it, but I was grateful to have it.
Yeah.
In my fanny pack, because I'm like. And then we went to the next 2 shows. I'm like, damn, that gum was really good, but I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because I read about all the additives.
I'm proud of you.
And so, but I think there's times where you're like, all right, this might be hormone disrupting, but
Jesus Christ.
I don't want to pass out,
Yeah, it really helped me a lot.
I think what we need to get is mint spray. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like
they would have taken it. They would have said, I don't know, we can't really prove that this is mint, So it's like,
we're thinking about doing LSD microdoses in Chicago, so you just like
it's just a spray bottle.
Yeah, that'll.
Yeah. But I mean, like it's okay. Like it turns out I got the perfect amount high because like if you can not give in to the like fuck I gotta go or I'm gonna go throw up or I'm breaking out in cold sweats, if you can somehow get past that, you did get really high. And it's gonna last, and it lasted me the whole concert. And luckily, I don't even think your dad knew what was going on. Like, and if he wasn't there, I would have just come back and been like, I'm too high, and I would have been acknowledging it out loud and like just cursing the rest of the show.
Because then I would have started like rubbing your back, and like you would have been like, oh, this attention, and then you'd be like, rather than just being like, okay, I gotta power through this with some breath. Yeah,
basically that was it. I just like cling to my breath, and oh man, what a pleasure that we have that.
Well, can we shout out that Jerry Pentecost?
Yes. Our friend Jerry Pentecost is the drummer for Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
God damn. And it's so funny because like the band comes out, everyone sets up, and like they just start doing their thing. There's like no acknowledgement of the crowd or anything like that. They just go, that's just like, let's get to work. Bob Dylan comes out exactly at 8 p.m. Exactly. Yeah. And he plays for 2 hours. He plays the same like 18 songs. He swaps out like 1 or 2 per night. And but it was really interesting. They come out on stage and like right away I was like, damn, Jerry just Bob Dylan's last drummer was great, but Jerry infused his band with some swing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just some really just like some looseness and some swing. And it was
He's definitely the youngest guy there by like 30 years.
Yeah, youngest person in the band by far. And the only person in the band that smiled the whole night. He had a smile on his face the whole night. Like he's just happy to be here and smiling and going along. And like the other guys look like they're being held hostage, and have been being held hostage. And like literally, they don't blink or crack a smile or move at all. They just do their job. and they're all fantastic, and they create a beautiful sound that really suits Dylan and his voice and where he's at right now.
I just think it's just like was such a trip for us to be like that's Jerry.
That's our friend.
He used to like have to sleep on the floor of our apartment when his band, like when our friend's band was coming through. Like
he slept on the floor of our apartment so many times. He used to fucking be so poor that I would give him like, I'd be like, hey, I have an old iPhone 4 I'm not using anymore. I upgraded, and he'd be like, I'll take it. And then you know, like when I upgrade my iPhone again, I would always send him to Jerry, and like he was just like very thankful that like, you know,
well, because musicians are
it's tough.
Like being a musician is tough. So to see a musician go from like, you know, a band that's getting like splitting like a couple $100s a night between like 5 people
yeah.
to, you know, I don't even know how much he's getting paid, but I mean, if you're not making a good living drumming for Bob Dylan, I don't know what hope there is in this world.
Yeah. He's making a good living.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. So it's just so exciting. And like you're like, whoa. I mean, who knows if he's even ever had a conversation with Bob, because of Bob's like got such a reputation of being so.
No, I knew my dad before we went. My dad was like, you know, if Jerry introduces you to Bob, I was like, whoa, let's just stop right there. I don't think Jerry's met Bob.
we don't know, but
I don't know.
I'm sure he's met Bob.
Yeah,
and I'm sure they've talked, and I'm sure, but you know what I mean. It's just like it seems like Bob seems so just like on his own vibe.
Yeah, he's definitely on the spectrum and always has been. And if I had to make another guess, I'd say he might be and has always been a high functioning heroin addict. Just throwing it out there
for people who have no idea what the fuck.
Yeah. Just like add those factors when you're like taking in Bob Dylan interviews and even his music and just like the whole aura around him. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You know.
You did the math, and that's where you ended up.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And like his private life is like a black box. You can't really like find out any information about it. Like,
I mean, what private life? He spends every day touring. He's on the road like all the time.
He's got past lovers. He's got kids out there. He's, you know,
you just gotta,
houses.
It's just kind of cool that to be that age and just, or even throughout his whole career, to see he's probably toured more than any musician.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And like we'll do, you know, 100 shows a year.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah, I know. It is.
Insane. So he must really love it.
And no wonder he can't run around like Mick Jagger. He's doing 100+ shows a year. The Stones do 12.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
20 on a crazy year. So, but you know, it was interesting. Like I was fixated the whole time. Like I was in a damn trance, and it was interesting being in a standing. Like being standing in a crowd for that, and like feeling the energy of the crowd, and I was just staring at Bob, and he cracked a smile a couple times.
Yeah.
But you know when it was, and it's another shout out to Jerry. When Jerry did some interesting fill or transition on the drums, you could see it. Like Bob would give him a little like, he'd be like, "Oh, that's good."
Yeah. No, I noticed that too. I noticed him looking back and smiling at Jerry too.
He really loves Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could you not?
Yeah. He's infectious.
But the funny way that you found out that Jerry was Bob's drummer, it was like the day after, you saw it like an announcement, like.
No, just one of these nerds that I followed on Twitter was like, you know, check out this picture. I snuck my camera, you know, because you have to put your phone in a Yonder bag when you go in there. But like someone pulled their phone out somehow and took like this blurry, far away picture. And they're like, Bob's new drummer tonight, Jerry. And I was like, Jerry. And I like zoom in on the picture. And like Jerry's a black guy he's the opposite of me. He's a black guy that wears white glasses.
Yeah.
I'm white and I wear black glasses.
Yeah, totally.
But like I zoomed in and I was like, Jerry, and I was like, whoa, if that's not Jerry, I don't know who that could be. So I texted him. I was like, Jerry, is there any way you're in Japan right now playing with Bob Dylan? He's like, yeah. How did you know? I was like, I found this crazy. I saw you in a blurry picture on Twitter, and he's like, could you please send me that picture? Like, I'm like, you don't care about this picture, and I send him like this blurry picture, and he's like, yeah, that's me. But yeah, that's how I found out that Jerry was in there. And like I told him, I was like, we're gonna be at the show, and he was like, he's very psyched, but he's like, I can't really hang out. He's like, the second the show ends, we get in the bus and head out. Like the second it ends. I was like, it's all good. We'll catch up at some point. But yeah, you know what was wild was like the crowd. I feel like was like 95% people that get it knew what they were going to, probably have seen Bob Dylan before.
Yeah.
But then there's this like wily 5% of the crowd that like probably doesn't see a lot of live music live, first of all.
It's just like Bob Dylan.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, Bob Dylan, or like maybe a friend took them or whatever, and I don't know what they think is going to happen or what this is going to be. Like, oh, here's some faithful renditions of the old hits, this is going to be a nostalgia factory here. And it's like, it ain't that. It is not that. And a couple guys lost their mind in the crowd.
I thought it was a Tourette's outbreak.
Yeah.
But then we were just like, oh yeah, that was just someone who didn't know what to expect, because someone was just like, what the fuck is this?
It literally, like, maybe 6 songs in, it just like must have just dawned on this guy, like, whoa, this is what it is. This is what I signed up for tonight. And he goes, motherfucker, fucking sing, motherfucker. And that's exactly what he said. And I was like, my heart sunk, and I was like, oh, Bob didn't skip a beat, didn't acknowledge. I mean, you could hear a pin drop in the fucking place when this guy screamed that. You could hear a pin drop between every song. Like, it was a well-behaved crowd. And then there's like these just drunk, wily people who, yeah, a couple of them had like Tourette's outbreaks. And it was crazy that just to scream that at a Bob Dylan concert.
Did you see the woman who's been to every Bob Dylan show? Isn't there some woman who's gone to every show?
She just goes, yeah, she goes to every show. I didn't see her.
Okay.
But we were also in there so early, and like I didn't really get a big read of the crowd until the show started and people started screaming and stuff.
My favorite. So when do you think the Key West song came out?
Key West?
Yeah.
His song, Key West?
Yeah.
It's on Rough and Rowdy Ways.
Yeah, so that's my favorite song from his last album, I guess.
Yeah. Pirate Philosopher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout that one out.
Definitely. Well, he played Stella Blue.
Yeah.
By the Dead.
We were at Garcia. We're at
Capitol Theater.
Capitol Theater.
Yeah, like that. It warms my heart to know that Bob had an understanding of where he was, and that this is a Grateful Dead venue. Like this is the place for Grateful Dead on the East Coast, and he just like that. He had a sense of where he was and who the crowd was, and hands down, biggest applause of the night.
I got a lot more applause than his songs.
People went crazy. Everyone went bonkos when he played Stella Blue, and it was awesome, and it was huge. He did a really good version of Stella Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, it warms my heart to see Bob Dylan honor Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia. Yeah. Really fucking just very, very special and rad. And we made it through the whole show. Your dad was fine. He had no complaints,
No, totally. I don't know about you, but I mean, we've been going to shows for so long, and I see people who don't seem to have an issue standing. Like, we've been going to shows for decades together, and like you and I always like need to bend over and like stretch our legs and are like always like being like, and then I see all these other people who just like
who are older than us, out of shape,
and they seem fine.
They
don't
that's
skip
the whole
a
thing.
beat.
Are they fine though? Because I probably look fine.
No, you don't look
But
fine.
like,
You don't look fine.
no.
You look like a guy who's like, all right, I gotta bend over, and I mean, you look fine while you're standing, but I don't see as many other people being like, all right, let me touch my toes, or like let me sway a little bit, and maybe it's because we both have scoliosis.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just baby bitches. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, either way, like, I think it's good that if you're feeling tight to stretch, like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I think those people are just faking it. That's a long time to stand. And for me, I'm like dancing a little bit, so there is like a little bit of extra stress on certain parts of my body, and I just literally I need to stretch a couple times during the show.
I need to do planks. I need to do whatever it is. Like now that I'm filming, and when I've been doing sound and anything, I'm like my job now is requiring me to be strong.
You need to be strong, baby.
Yeah, I got to do planks and
yeah,
lifts and whatever.
Enough's enough with this baby bitch shit.
Yeah.
Like it's time to enter your
the power age.
Strong Amazon woman phase of your life.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then so just a great time, and I couldn't thank your dad enough. I said thank you so much for going with us, because it's like, to me it's important to make like big core memories like that with our parents. Like they're getting older. Like I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to drag them to shit like that.
Yeah, I was I was talking to a friend and she was like, "Who are you hanging out with? Like, what's life like since you like moved out of the city and stuff?" I'm like, honestly, our best friends are our parents.
Yeah.
Like, and it's awesome. We're
Yeah.
getting better along with your parents, my dad, my mom. Like, I mean, we've always gotten along with all of them really well, but like even better and
Yeah.
in a truer way, in a more genuine way, in a more relatable way, in a celebrating of interests together, and whether it's like trying to learn how to play music with my dad or
Yeah.
go to concerts or like make art with my mom or
Yeah.
the political discussions we have with your parents, it's like it's kind of really cool.
Yeah. Well, they've met us halfway by starting to take weed and acid. So they feel more relatable.
Yeah, we're on a similar prescription.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Edibles and acid.
Yeah.
It'll get you aligned, your family unit aligned. You want to align your family unit? Just fucking drug everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it strips away like a layer of like surface fucking muck and algae and just like, they're just disgusting. It's just like bringing a skimmer across the pool. Just makes it nice. It makes it so you could see down into the depths and
because there's like a deeper acknowledgement because everyone's kind of like going through that personal trip of, I'm sure, what you were feeling on too much weed or whatever. You're just like, what is life? And then you don't really take moments or people for granted when you're just like the ground you stand on is a little more wobbly because then you're not as righteous or whatever it is and whatever your opinion is. It's very exactly.
That's what
Humbling
it is.
The word
I think that's what I mean by saying like our parents have met us halfway. Is like they haven't taken as much psychedelics and weed as us, but they've taken our lead on the self-humbling. And
I think also we've been humbled a lot, and so we've gotten a lot older and mature in the last decade, and less righteous and a lot less like proselytizing, and like the less we proselytize and the more just culture shifts, and honestly, in some ways in our favor, at least.
Yeah, well, the reason we don't proselytize is because we don't need to.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, everything we used to like feel the need to loudly preach about is
used to
become
like,
part of
Dad,
mainstream.
Like, these drugs are going to be legal, and you're going to have not taken advantage of the fact that you have a daughter who, like, has access to the best freaking drugs.
He's like, I hear you, but I have a pain in the ass fucking girlfriend, and I can't do that kind of stuff now. And the second she was gone, he was like, where's that Molly? What's going on? Let's get some acid going.
Total party boy.
Yeah. But yeah, so then a couple nights later, we're back down there at the Capitol Theater. Same thing though with security. Like they got me that time. They were like really thoroughly searching me. We met our friends Judy and what's her boyfriend's name again? Matt?
Mhm.
Yeah. We hung out with Judy and Matt.
It better be Matt. You fucking trip me out.
When I look at him, every time I've met him, I'm like Matt. So I hope that's his name because he seems like he looks like a Matt or a Matthew.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, so we met up with Judy and Matt. And this time it was good. We had seats. We were up in the balcony. And we didn't really take any drugs for Bob Dylan, which I think was good. I mean, obviously, I did that weed. But, like, on this one, we were like, let's get lit, We're going to see a Grateful Dead cover band. Like, we know what this is going to be. We love this band. It's going to be reliable. Let's spice things up a little bit.
I honestly, by the time... I had lost all the spice by the time the show started.
It's so hard to time it. It's so hard to time LSD with live music unless you're doing it at the show.
And now I'm starting to understand why people... Like, I always thought, like, my friend Ted, who would be like, oh, yeah, I'm like, when do you dose for, like, a Dead concert? Or we'd see Dead and Company with him.
He's like...
Oh, as I'm walking in.
I'm
like, what? I'm like, I had a dose, like...
Hours before.
But maybe it's smart because you dose as you're walking in and you have that. The come up is like
it's where it's at.
It's like it's your first Bardo. It's like the oneness, you know? Like maybe that is what's up. But I don't want to miss a night of sleep, I got things.
I'm less worried about that than kind of the thing that I was describing happening at
Bob
Dylan, where it's just like, damn, I'm going through it.
But maybe that's why the music helps you not go through it, or not go through it, but go through it where it's like especially Dead, where it's like holding your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing is like physically, like I like to like lie down sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's, to me, it's always been kind
I
of,
need to get in the fetal position for at least an hour and then writhe around for 2 hours and then figure
yeah.
out how to walk again. And like doing that in public seems crazy. We have done it, but
But there is something to like powering through, and maybe being at a concert on
yes,
the come up
yeah,
is kind of like you stand up and you're just like with it. You
yeah.
know, you're not like my mom when she does acid, she won't sit down or lie down because she's like, if I lie down, I won't get back up again.
It's crazy. She's only done it a few times, and I like learned from her. I'm like, that's the move. You don't give in. You don't give in. You have to keep the inertia of your day going, and just let this enhance it.
Yeah.
Not let it completely take you down, but like, I don't know. It also might be the difference between men and women, and just where your mom's at in her life or whatever. But man, if I take the amount she takes, I literally need to just be left alone for 3 hours. And you could set your watch to it. It's like 3 hours goes by and I'm like, cool, I'm ready to be the funniest person ever. Let's go. But timing it for a concert was tough. Like we started taking, we woke up and we started taking micros, and they were just, they just hit us so incredibly hard. It was like hard to imagine even going to a concert. And then by the time we were going, we were totally fine. And like you're saying, some of the spice had worn off.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We're always dialing it in. All these substances and
Yeah.
having the most ecstatic live music experiences, because it is church for us, you know, like Church of Chill is really just saying the Church of Chill is live music, is that is the sacrament. So it's just more of a larger umbrella on what we believe, because you know, I think you can process a lot of that stuff in that space and be purified, cleansed.
It feels almost exactly like church to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, because a lot of times I'll go into like a transcendent trance, like where it's just like it almost feels like a K-hole, like on the other side of it, like the first time a thought comes in a while, you're like, whoa, I was just like empty for a second of that chaos and those thoughts. I was just like locked into the music and just like letting that fill my psyche, as opposed to all this other shit that I normally allow in. And it's so useful, and I do feel reborn when we leave.
Yeah, I think the third show that we went to, Spiritualized, was probably the most cleansing of the three.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's, you kind of not warned me, but you like gave me a heads. I was like, I don't really know what to expect, you know, and you were just like,
Beauty.
yeah, and it was really beautiful, and at first I had such a funny experience of thoughts of like,
Take me through it.
take you through my thoughts. Well, I just kind of like was like, okay, I see what this guy's doing, and then, you know, he was like kind of would go into, you know, where like the what do you call that when it's just like
Feedback?
not just feedback, but you know, where the song where everyone's like on a guitar solo and everyone's just like noise, and it's like wall of sound, like
that's a good way of describing it.
And you're just like, okay, this is cool. And then he went into it again on another song, and I was like twice in one song, and I was like, usually I'm like all for this. Like when I see the Meat Puppets, I'm like, give it to me more. Like I want it from the fucking beginning to the end. But this, I started to feel like, is this self-indulgent? You know what I mean? I was just like, is this just like trying to get me to an ecstatic experience for ecstatic experience's sake? But then they took it so far that I was like, okay, you earned that one. You know what I mean? It went from being like, okay, great, if you're going to give me what you just gave me, like this is self-indulgent, you're not taking me anywhere, you're just like jacking off in whatever this land is of like noise and guitar and whatever. But no, they took it far. Maybe the farthest I've ever seen music take it.
Yeah.
Where it just was like high-pitched noise, but it was earned.
Everything was earned. That's what I appreciated about it.
And so I had a 180 from being like, oh, this is great. I usually love this, but this just feels like self-indulgent, and they're just trying to click the box of like making us have like a weird experience. But then the experience was like went so far.
Yeah. That it clicked over to something real for you.
Oh yeah, totally.
I think that's why they play for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, and again, Spiritualized, zero acknowledgement or audience of the audience or anything like that. Wasn't playing to the audience. He's not even facing the audience. He's sitting in a chair facing his band, slightly, not even angled towards the audience, slightly angled back away from the audience, sitting in a chair, sunglasses, and he just has his music in front of him and he's playing, and yeah, it's beautiful. He's like a very sensitive soul, and I think a part of what you went through, like especially not being familiar with the music, and it's like all their songs sound like the biggest thing ever. They all sound like the beginning of the most epic show ever or the end of the most epic show ever. So like 2.5 hours of that, you can get a little like, is this the big grand finale? I've never heard something get built up this big. You know, like it'll start with just like a couple little notes on a guitar, and then his voice is like very soft, and he's got these angelic backup singers that start coming in, and like 10 minutes later you're still in the same song, and it's just like you know, like crazy. And every song is kind of like that. Every song has some element where you're just like, how is this not in every movie during the credits?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a test of endurance too.
Everyone was loving it though, so it really made it like a pleasure.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And like the conversations that I could overhear between songs seemed like people really being like understanding that we were witnessing something very special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh damn! Wow! Whoa!
Yeah, yeah. Just blown away. I mean, and also like incredible sound. Webster Hall is one of my favorite venues in New York City. Incredible sound, and they're not afraid to play it loud, like to where your whole body's shaking. The floor of the place is vibrating.
That's when I would pass out from weed.
Yeah.
I have to be careful about how much weed I take, because once you can tune into other people's conversations, the floor vibrating, the lights flashing, like I was having closed-eyed insane visuals from having my eyes closed, but the lights were flashing.
Oh, last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Like
it felt like that EMDR.
That's what I kept thinking too.
Yeah.
I was like, is this helping me in some way?
Yeah, I tried to think it was.
I have to, like, when the lights are that crazy, I have to close my eyes and put my head down. I have my eyes closed most of the show anyway, but like especially when there's like strobes and stuff like that, I'm like, I don't want to attempt a seizure or anything here. I don't know. It runs in the family. I don't even know.
Oh man!
But it was such a damn pleasure. It was like such just a perfect way to end a perfect weekend when going to 3 shows and rocking out. And like that one truly felt like, I talk about being in a trance. Like it didn't feel like 2.5 hours to me at all. Like I just closed my eyes and just got into the music, and next thing you know, it was time to go. And I was like, fuck. That was so special. I hope someone has a recording of it. You start clinging to it. You know, you start like...
I recorded some of it on my phone, and then I played it back, and I was like, well, that sucks.
That would be next to impossible to get a bootleg in there off your phone, because it's so loud that everything would be overmodulated. And that's how it sounded on your thing. But if there's a proper bootleg of that, we need to find it, and people should seek that out.
Yeah. Really
rad. Listen to Spiritualized. Listen to Spacemen 3. Spacemen 3 came first, and then the guy broke off and made Spiritualized.
Yeah, we have the Spaceman 3 album on vinyl, and it's awesome.
Recurring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good K-Hole album. Yeah, somebody was asking us right before we went on the show. I was like, oh, we're going to see Spiritualized. They're like, what is it? I was like, I was like, I don't know. Drug music, I guess. Like, would I imagine ketamine music being? That's what I'd put it in that category.
Yeah, it'd probably be good for that.
It has been, because we've played Spiritualized or Spaceman 3 on Church of Chill many times while we're doing ketamine.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll take you on a trip.
Yeah, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Yes. Anything else, my love?
Money. What was that? What were we talking about before? We were singing before.
We were talking about strange, unexplainable, like spontaneous occurrences of crowd participation in music that is unexplainable, the origins of it. For example, biggest example that I can think of. Sweet Caroline.
Ba, ba, ba.
Good times never felt so good.
So good, so good, so good.
Everything you just sang, both those things, da da da, so good, so good. No one knows where that came from or when it started. It's not part of the recording. Neil Diamond like it didn't have anything to do with it. It's just
He
something.
wasn't like, and now you're gonna go so good, so good.
There was just like no one can trace when that started or why.
So
Isn't
funny.
that crazy?
Well, that's where it just is like it completes a circuit. Those are like
Yes.
fully completed circuit songs.
Yes, yes.
And when we were making music with Noah like a couple weeks ago, you guys were playing this song and he added a part and you guys were both like, and then I guess you removed it or something and you were both like, I wasn't as tapped in as you guys were at that time, but you're like, we can hear that part. Like,
Yeah.
like it was just so perfect that you guys could both hear an element of the music
That
even
wasn't there
that
yet.
wasn't there yet. Yeah.
And we both could hear it. And then he's such a good musician and producer and everything. He just was able to kind of get that sound and put it into the song. It was so cool. There's another one though. There's another one in that Billy Idol covers that song Monet Monet. You know, it was a big hit for him. Here she comes round singing Monet Monet. There's a crowd participation in that started in 1987 where like, here she comes round saying Monet Monet, and then like the crowd says like, get fucked, get laid, blah blah blah, and like everyone shouts the same thing at the same time.
Right.
And like this started in 1987, so like people have like tried to look into like, okay, how did this come about? And like there's even interviews with Billy Idol where he's like, I have no idea. It just started at one show, and he's like, the first time I heard it was in Australia, but then we're playing in North Carolina and the people are doing the same thing. Then we played in Texas and the people are doing the same thing. It was just like, this is before the internet. These are like the original memes. Like, how did this catch on? How did this become a thing?
Well, and it's also probably like it plays in one stadium theater and it gets in one arena and it like gets cellularly downloaded to everyone else. You know what I mean? They say that like if mice in the UK do what do you call those things?
Maze?
A maze. Yeah, that they'll learn it 10 times faster in the US, the same maze.
Yeah.
Because it's like been downloaded to the mainframe. So maybe it's something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just fascinating. There's probably countless examples, but like just these weird little cultural phenomenons that like they just pop up and no one ever really even questions them. But if you think about it, you're like, it is kind of trippy. That...
Do you have any? This is making me think. This is probably like a side thing, but do you have any songs where you've like thought the lyrics were something than they were, and then found out like decades later that you're like, whoa, that's what they were saying? I thought they were saying something else.
Yeah, a million times. I just can't think of a lot of examples.
Okay, my big example is The Darkness, where he goes,
I believe in a thing called love.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen to the rhythm of my heart.
But then there's like one part where he goes, guitar.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was, hiya.
That's it.
That's it. And then there's an Outkast song where it's Bombs Over Baghdad, and I always thought it was Y'all Go to Baghdad. And then I'm sure I could think of other examples, but I don't even know.
You probably have more of these than most people.
Yeah, because I'm a dope.
No, I'm not saying you're a dope, but like you get in your head something and it's very hard to convince you otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Challenging your initial instinct is it's a tough one. Yeah. But it can be done.
It can be done.
Yeah.
I'm willing to change my mind on things.
I want to. You know, nothing is more boring and uptight to me than like, I know everything. I know everything I need to know. My opinions are so firm that they're not going to evolve. Like,
that's why it's so weird that people are scared of like new information.
It's a dead giveaway.
Yeah, you're just like, you're scared of finding out an alternate perspective of this thing that's going on.
Yeah.
Because it might challenge where you firmly root yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't. Well, I think people feel very comfortable being firmly rooted in something.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a little disorienting.
Yeah, and people end up hiding behind that, and it'll stunt your growth.
And then you also have to like if you do change your view, there's a part of you that like has to acknowledge and like apologize or feel shame or whatever
That's
it
the
is.
best.
Where you're like, oh man, I was not taking this aspect of things into account.
Yeah. I mean, it's happened with us countless times on here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going hard in one direction and we're sounding very convincing, but again, we're just like exploring these ideas for the first time a lot of times on recording. And then we end up talking about them more after we'll like put out a podcast where we're like, here's the hill we're going to die on, and then we talk about it more and it's just like, man, there's really no hill to die on. There really is. There's no hill worth dying on. You know, and I'm not saying I'm easily swayed and pulled around or whatever, but if there's new information or something that's going to help me have a better understanding of things, a more nuanced, detailed understanding of things, I want that. You know, my tightrope's not that crazy. You know, I can handle it. I can handle more information. I can handle evolving. I can handle being wrong. Really, that's what it comes down to. You know, I think like for example, like when the vaccines first came out, like I was getting all of my information through you. Everything about coronavirus, COVID, everything.
Well, I was very quick on it. I
You knew about it and you knew it was coming to our shores for months before. You were talking about it in like December. You were like, yo, this is no joke. And I was like, sounds scary. I don't want to know about it. Sounds scary. I don't want to know about it. And then all of a sudden, like everything was getting shut down.
For the record, though, I wasn't like, we have to do the vaccine. I never put any pressure on you to take the vaccine at all.
No, but it was like this country, this world became a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And you know how important my family is to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I needed to see them. Like, I can't just leave them here. So I needed to see them. And it just felt like we weren't allowed to. And then all of a sudden, if you did this thing, you could. And that it was so simple, I chose to believe it because it would allow me a pathway to seeing my family again.
I still don't necessarily believe that taking it was a mistake. I do think it saved a lot of lives. What I do think was a mistake is believing that taking it made you safe and made you safe to be around people. It's like it became this kind of crazy thing where it's like, I'm like I got COVID from people who had been vaccinated. I gave people COVID who have been vaccinated. It's like, you know what I mean?
We got vaccinated. We still got and gave COVID to people, and it was still pretty bad.
Well, you at least gave it to each other. I don't know. I can't think of other people we gave it to, but I know between us, we probably gave it to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
But
all I'm saying is, like, look, when they first rolled this out, it seemed like, cool, we got this, it's taken care of, you know, like I purposely, and it was subconscious, but I was choosing not to think too hard about it because it just gave me the intellectual workaround to start being around people again. And I just felt like, cool, that's a convenient excuse. I can go be around people again. And so I took it. And people that were close to me, I encouraged. Like, the only person I could think of is Mare, who was like, you know, thinking about this in the right way. Actually, she was questioning things, and she was like, "No, we're not going down this path." And I just gave her a talking to one day, and it's the only person I would do this to, like somebody that's close to me, I care about.
Yeah, someone that you're dating.
I'm dating. You're a part of my family. We're going to see my family. I want to be able to see them. Could you please do this thing so Caitlin doesn't end up in the hospital with COVID? She has no immune system because of epilepsy and all the experimental drugs she's on. But and Mare did it, you know, and that's something I look back on. I'm like, that's cringe. You know, I've talked about it on here, but I wouldn't put myself as an anti-vaxxer or whatever, because I think there are vaccines that do work and have helped us get to this point.
I don't even know that the COVID vaccine doesn't work. I think that
I do.
I don't. I think that there's like a lot of studies that I do trust, like whether it's coming out of Japan or whatever, that, you know, it decreased people in the hospital and that sort of stuff. What I'm more interested in saying is, like, people should be able to make the choices for themselves, given that the reality of it is it's not. You taking the vaccine, I don't believe affects people enough for you to not work if you decide that you don't want to take the vaccine. Do you know what I mean? We're
That was
getting
an
into
awful position to put people in.
yeah, and I never stood for that.
Like,
I
you can't
never.
participate in society if you don't take this shot. Like, that's not what this country is. That's not what we're all about
I
here.
think, and I think honestly, more people would have taken it if it was elected, an elective
Yeah,
experience.
I mean, if it wasn't rushed to market, if it wasn't coinciding with record profits for the companies that produce them, like, it's just like there's just so many suspicious things that you look back on now and you're like, oh yeah, the wool got pulled over my eyes. I'm not proud to say it, but yeah, it definitely happened. I'm apologetic to anyone that I made feel weird. You know, that's really it. And I didn't even make it my business to do that, really. Besides, like, with Mare, someone very close to me, I'm like, we're spending all of our time together. If you wouldn't mind getting this shot so we could be around my sister Katie, that would be awesome. And she did it. To her credit, she did it.
I don't know if she'd call it to her credit.
I'm saying, like she did that for me. It just showed the level of like love and respect that we had for each other, because she's not easy to convince of anything, and neither am I.
Mm-mm.
And I think that's kind of why she trusted it, because it was coming from me. I was just like, could you do this thing, please? And then, like, I don't know, the second I got the second one, I was like, I wish I did. Like, it was just, I'm sorry, you can say, oh, there's a study in Japan that says, my body was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I listen to my body. I trust that more than some study that was cooked up by people who are ultimately profiting off either the study or the vaccine. So I trust my body, and my body was like, I don't like this. I felt weird. I felt like there was a foreign entity in me. I felt sick from the vaccine. COVID was still horrible. Like, I don't know if it decreased it or prevented me from going in the hospital. Like,
The
that's
people
all the
who
bullshit
haven't-
they want us
but
to
also the people
perpetuate.
who haven't gotten the vaccine have got like horrible fucking experiences with COVID, like probably even worse. And it's like, who knows? I don't know, but I think it's like, I think at the time, with the information we had, we made the best decision we could. And then with the information you had of having the experience with the second vaccine, you made the best decision you could to say, I'm done doing this. And I went to take the third one because we had to for work. And then I just,
You forged mine.
because I was like, yeah, my baby's heart. I don't know what the hell. Like, COVID's bad for you. Vaccine's bad for your heart. Double a dose in it. I don't know. I don't think it's. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's no amount of like what was the amount of boosters where you could find yourself in the clear? Like that's the whole thing. It'll just continue forever, and that's to me was the dead giveaway of that whole thing. It's just like, oh yeah, now you're gonna need boosters. You need another booster. Go get another booster.
Well, hearing my friend who
What?
works in she helps people like physical therapy for people who like have traumatic brain injuries or different things. She's like, I mean, people come in from COVID, like having COVID, but people are also come in from like getting the flu vaccine.
Yeah.
Like, can really screw people up. So I don't know. I think that's just what life is for us as people, is having to slow down, like we were talking in the beginning, and listen to your body and listen to what's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and that's, I think, what's going on right now with bigger questions of like what's right for our world. And a lot of people are like, peace is what's right. Being anti-war. I think if you don't feel like a good amount of shame about what's going on in our world, you're like completely cut off from.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the idea is not to like.
Yeah, but you're also speaking from a place of a deeply shameful person. And I personally have been there, and I don't think that there is any prescription for the amount of shame anyone needs to feel. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
maybe
a
I'm not.
necessary emotion.
Maybe I'm not saying it right, but and maybe that's not what I mean to say. I just mean to say like things are topsy-turvy, and
Yeah.
maybe shame's not the emotion.
Yeah, if it doesn't hurt your heart, you're probably just not paying attention. And that's okay too.
And that's
Because
okay
not every
too.
because a lot of people's hearts hurt just from what's going on in their personal world, and they don't need to zoom out and be like, let's cast our net a little farther and wider to pull in anxieties from foreign lands. Like, that's not everyone's prerogative. No one should feel bad about not doing that or not feeling shame or anything like that. I think you should have values and principles that you stand behind when push comes to shove, where the rubber meets the road. You stand up for those things. But here in America, we're pretty well protected. We're extremely well defended. I don't know what you want me to say about it, but I don't think people need to go carrying around shame.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot lately.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you have proclivity to beat yourself up or figure out how you caused the conflict in Ukraine. If I just wouldn't have fucking said that thing that day and that person wouldn't have done it, you know, like
Well, not
you
that
will come up
reductive,
you will
but
come up with crazy complex narratives where things that were your fault have nothing to do with you. And all I'm saying is that's what I hear when you say, like, if you're not carrying shame, it's like you don't need to do that. You don't need to carry shame
yeah, I
at
think
all.
yeah, I think it's I think our hearts know the truth, you know,
Yeah,
and our body
and that's why it
that's more like
hurts.
what I was trying to say.
That's why it hurts, because we know it's wrong. We know what's going on, and like I don't know, it's kind of why I've been avoidant to talk about all this stuff in too great of detail, is because first of all, I want to be more informed, uh, and secondly, it's like, does it really matter what I say or think about it, or does it matter how I act in my life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When people start running their yaps, and whether they know it or not, start speaking genocidal language, I speak up. I speak up with more fervor than most people ever would dare.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. I'm willing to alienate myself in those moments.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's not the case. You know, everyone I've talked to, whether they are extremely misinformed or less misinformed, because we all are misinformed, everyone I talk to wants peace. They want the killing to end. They want very simple things like people to be able to live their lives. How we get there is a whole different thing. And I've also heard some just extremely atrocious things that are steeped in racism and indoctrination, and it's extremely concerning for our future that, you know, we can label, compartmentalize, and then eradicate sections of our population as opposed to listening to them more and doing something for them and truly doing something for them, not just making them more desperate and out of control. So, yeah. You're dying to talk about this stuff on the podcast,
No, I'm not.
and I'll do it
No,
with
I'm
you.
not.
I will do it with you.
I feel like we talked about it. I don't need to talk
No,
about
Here,
anything right now.
we talk about this, and we talk about it up on or off the thing. I feel like you feel guilty that you're not out there, speaking, you know, something you want to say. So I'll definitely hold space for it. I'm saying maybe we should do it on the Patreon.
Okay.
You know, I'm totally down to do that, but like, yeah, we live in a world where you get quickly labeled, you can get demonetized, you can lose your career, you can alienate yourself by just trying to kind of figure out what your opinion is or what's even going on here. So I'm willing to explore that with you, and I have been willing to. I've just been very hesitant to do it on a recording because, like I'm saying, our opinions change so much.
Yeah, no, and I think the bigger a point of what I was trying to make, and maybe it's not a good point, it's one that, like, that's why I appreciate you so much, because you help me, like, keep perspective in, like, a bigger sense, and, like, my instinct is to, like, look for ways of feeling blame and shame and all these, like, things that actually, whether don't necessarily inspire, but don't necessarily inspire more harmonious and loving actions. But I think being an American and every day waking up more and more to, like, atrocities that we commit, or just the dark side of the privilege that a lot of Americans have, ourselves included.
Yeah.
And the more we get, like, globally connected and have been globally connected, the more I think we've been aware, but it's in a beautiful way. It's harder and harder to keep blinders on to the effects of, like, our consumerist instincts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like it just makes me want to, like, simplify and consume less and create more, and love more and find more like peace within my heart and with our families. And yeah, there's just like this thing where you just feel like I'm not doing anything, but I'm consenting. Do you know what I mean? Like my existence is consenting. So it's just like a weird push and pull I think I go through.
Yeah. I just don't want you to go there because I think it shrinks us.
Yeah.
It ultimately, like, the joke's on us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You feeling bad about, like feeling the shame and guilt about something that is completely out of our control across the world is doing nothing but limiting your spirit from expressing itself fully through our projects.
Yeah, I think channeling that motivation, and I feel like we've felt more motivated lately, you know, to focus on our art, to focus on our projects, to say something, whether it's saying something specific or saying something broader, but just like trying to keep a true message in your heart and then speak to that message and believe in that message and double down on that message, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway. So
The illusion is that you are just you and that you're not your brothers and sisters and the other things that you see here, that you're disconnected from that.
No.
That's the illusion. And I think what we try to, our films, that's the best I can do is make films that I feel like are the antidote to that. And if someone were to stumble across it, they think they're going to watch something that further otherizes, and they think that otherization is their medicine, and they get actually the opposite, and they get something that's the antidote to that. And they start to see themselves in really fringe communities that we focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that, you're starting to break the illusion a little bit. If you could see yourself in a juggalo or a sex worker or a drug addict or a gambling person or a mystic or, you know, or a homeless guy or whatever.
Yeah, well, we're always all on both sides of like the oppressed and the oppressor.
Yeah.
You know. Do you want to go over to the Patreon?
Yeah, if you're down.
Yeah,
if you're down. Yeah, we have more to say. Sorry we're being a little self-censoring these past couple weeks on here. You know we have opinions. You know we have things to say. It's just feels very risky, you know. We have ads playing before this podcast for Israel. You know, like if you just click on this and you don't have an ad blocker, chances are an ad trying to say how scared we should be of Palestinians will come up. And so it's just I'm sorry, a lot of this stuff has just triggered my paranoia because we've been demonetized so many times and shut down and our films disappear and we're not in control.
I think there's that paranoia, and then there's also the paranoia that you could say something that could radicalize someone else in a way that isn't like seeing the whole of humanity on all the sides.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Where you just like, the last thing that I think anyone wants to do right now is to do anything to like increase hate and division and anger, you know, but at the same time, you're just like, whoa, wild times.
We'll attempt to get our current opinions across on the Patreon.
Maybe we'll just have fun. Who knows?
We could we could do both. We could do both. But yeah, we're gonna try to get some things across that I'm sorry we've been a little bit uptight about.
I don't think anyone cares. They get their information from more reliable sources than us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it is interesting to get people's opinion and hear what they say and where they stand. And I think you know firmly where we stand in any world conflict, and it's on the side of the oppressed. So we'll talk in more detail about that. Patreon.com/churchofchill. Deeply appreciate you listening to our wild ramblings and joining us and keeping us company. Thanks so much. Peace, love, and magic.